Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of Spirit Wolf by Gary Svee, narrated by Norman Dietz. This book is copyrighted 1987 by Gary D. Svee. This recording is copyrighted 2004 by Recorded Books. In the dead of winter, Nashua Brue ventures into the wilderness to track and kill a wolf that has been slaughtering cattle on area ranches. At stake, a $500 bounty on the wolf's head, which brings out dozens of men for the hunt. Some of the men are friends and neighbors, others are not, but they all listen intently to the legend of the white wolf and the eyes that mesmerize you before it moves in for the kill. And now, Spirit Wolf.
Chapter 1. The voices were muffled through the cracks of the door that led to his parents' bedroom. He heard his father's deep voice, an unintelligible rumble, punctuated by his mother's alto. He'd been awakened by the sound of his own name, Nashua, and he knew it must have been his mother speaking because only she called him that. He'd long since become Nash to his father. They were the focus of his 12-year-old world, and they were talking about him. He swung his legs out from under the quilt, patched together from bits and pieces of worn-out shirts and pants, and dropped his feet to the ice-cold wooden floor. Even in the darkness he could see the cloud his breath made, wafting through the cold air toward the broken window at the front of the cabin. The fire in the big, majestic range had been banked for the night, and it did little more than take the edge off the cold. By morning, the bucket of water by the stove would be caked with ice. Nash felt a shiver course through his body, and he wrapped his arms around himself as he walked over to the bedroom door to listen. "Mary, we don't have any choice," his father said. "You know how dry it was last year. We didn't get enough wheat for seed. If we don't have a mild winter, we'll run out of hay, and we can't afford to buy any. We don't have any choice. I know it isn't much, but it's all we've got." And then his mother's protest. What if a blizzard comes up? What if one of you gets hurt? Losing the place is one thing, but it isn't as important as keeping you and Nash safe. Surely you can see that. "We don't have any choice. I'm sorry, but it has to be." Nash heard a little stir in his parents' bed and then silence, and he walked back to his own already cold blankets. The boy lay wide-eyed for some time, watching light from the hunter's moon outside skip off the breast of the snow and bounce into the cabin. The light was too soft to reveal much, but there wasn't much to see anyway. A piano, Mary Brue's only heirloom, stood against the windowless back wall of the room. When the Brues left Minnesota, bound for the homestead in Montana, Mary's mother had given the ornate old upright to her. The gift was an unstated acknowledgment that neither would see the other again. Mary played beautifully. In Minnesota, the minister of the local Lutheran church had been fond of saying that if he could learn to keep his mouth shut and let Mary praise God with her music, the church would be filled to overflowing each Sunday. He was probably right, but he was too much in love with the sound of his own voice to ever put his theory to the test. But now Mary's hands were cracked and calloused with the hard labor of homesteading. One summer afternoon, Nash had surprised his mother at the piano, wringing her hands and weeping. She made Nash promise never to tell Uriah. The rest of the furnishings were rough-hewn to fit the rough-hewn home. The house had been a line cabin once, years ago, when Montana was still an open range. Nash remembered the look on his mother's face when she first saw the cabin, and the apology in his father's voice as he said, "I know it isn't much, but we'll fix it up, and it'll serve until I can build you something better." That had been 5 years ago, And still it was the same cabin, still the rough plank floor, worn smooth by the door and by the stove.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?